Ce numim Andreas? Andy?
Andy.
Andy, ok. Și acum o sunăm pe Gloria. Gloria ne va prezenta un pic cartea ei Going Agile. Puteți găsi și pe canalul de YouTube în care să mai activați cărții.
Hi, Gloria.
Hi Gloria, this is a video and we are like, I don't know, 50 or 60 people in the room. So I guess we can start with your presentation. I just move the slides. Just let me know when to change the slide.
Okay. And how long do I have? 10 minutes? Is that right?
Yeah, 10, maybe 15, but yeah, if you can cover it in 10 minutes, it's great.
Okay. So first of all, thanks for the invitation, and I hope you guys have had a good session until now. I wanted to just take the 10 minutes and introduce the Going Agile book, what the ideas behind that, and talk a little bit about one specific topic. That was my idea for the 10 minutes.
Sounds good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How many people in the room were at the Mammoth, Even Mammoth Can Be Agile conference? Anybody?
Like 7 people, 8 maybe.
Okay, 7, 8 out of 60. Okay.
Yes.
So I don't cover the same topics, but the people that were at the Mammoth conference already heard a little bit about the book. So in terms of background, I am obviously an IT professional. I've been studying computer science, graduated in 1985. Since then, I've had executive positions, running companies, running organizations size 100 million US dollars or so, as well as a project manager. So that's my background. And I wrote the book Going Agile because I was studying for the PMI Agile certification. And they recommended about 10 books to read, and I found it interesting and I learned a lot, but I found it very challenging to understand how to apply it the next day. So Going Agile is a book that's just an overview of Agile, what it is, an overview of what all the different experts and gurus are saying about Agile, and then very specifically how it relates to project management, so how it relates to the knowledge areas that are in the PMBOK, and then some steps on how to go Agile. Yeah?
Yep.
And to write this book, I had 20 people help me. They reviewed it, they added case studies, they added their personal experience. So hopefully the book is very, very applicable to what people really need to do with Agile. So that's currently what the book is about. So if I take one specific topic, which should be on the next slide, it should be about budgeting projects. Do you see that slide?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, this is an example of one of the topics that we all face in projects. How many people in the room are actually project managers?
Let me take a picture. Like 4 or 5.
Okay. So maybe it's not so interesting, the topic, but for me, Agile is interesting because the idea is that you estimate the scope that you want to do, and that is the thing that then becomes very variable in the project, while the budget stays fixed and the time stays fixed. Yeah? This is the idea. And every project I've ever worked in, once you fix the budget, everybody expects all of the features and everything within that budget and in the time. And when you first start a project, you normally have an idea, but you don't have all the details, right? So when I was preparing for that exam, I found it very interesting that, well, okay, this is a good concept, but what do you actually do about the budget? What do you do about the money? So what this slide tries to show is how all the different pieces project fit with the budget for an Agile project? Yeah? And in Agile projects, what it says the scope is variable, and that you should use different prioritization techniques to actually prioritize the scope. And then throughout the project, you should basically plan what scope you're going to do in stages. Yeah?
Yes.
And so how that relates to the budget is, well, basically, if you have priorities, then it might mean that you don't finish all of the capabilities within the time you have. So that's what you see in the yellow box is the functional scope, prioritized in different areas using different prioritization techniques, which is what you see in innovation games or story maps or Kano or any economic kind of prioritization. And then the percentages are kind of what the recommendation is of how much of the total scope should be in any one of those buckets, right? So as the project goes along, and if you run into problems with the budget or the time, you're supposed to focus only on the things that you must have, right? And that's covered in a couple of the different chapters in the book, chapter 6 and 7, integration and then scope management. Then the other thing that was interesting is, well, what about risk? In normal projects every day, you have risk, things that you can't control, things that might happen. How does that apply to Agile? The recommendation there and the idea there is that you basically engage all the team members in identifying what the risks are, and then actually quantifying the impact of those risks. And then in your day-to-day projects, or the planning and the review sessions, you actually plan the actions that you're going to take and integrate them into your backlog, right? So that's another topic that's covered in the book, and that's covered in the risk chapter, which I think is chapter 13. So those are two areas of the budget. Then there's all these other things that are that go on in projects. So what are some of the other costs? I think one of the most important things that any project has to do to be agile is to basically have the infrastructure to adapt quickly to change. And if you're in IT projects, which I think all of us are, then we know that the difficulty is always that testing gets delayed until the last minute, and you always find things that come up that need to be resolved, and then there's never enough time to resolve them. So to avoid that, the recommendation with Agile is that you actually have the proper infrastructure for that. So that means test automation, a continuous integration back environment, that you have professional people that know about Agile testing, so Agile testers. So all of these things have to be planned and considered in the budget and then implemented before you can actually really properly be Agile, at least according to my experience into the methods. So that's another topic that's covered. What do you do about Agile testing and things like that? And of course there is facilities that might need to be adjusted. And if you're working with remote teams, and every project I work in does have remote team members, you need an environment for collaborating with the team members and things like that. So that is also covered from a human resources point of view in the book, as well as from an infrastructure point of view. So generally, that's another topic for the budget, of course. And then finally, there's the different contingencies. If you're lucky, you can get a schedule contingency, which means that you have a buffer of time in case you are delayed in the project. And then management reserves, just being money that management might reserve for contingency purposes, right?
Yes.
So all of those topics are covered in different areas in the book according to the 10 knowledge areas involved. And the idea is that you're able to kind of navigate your way through being agile, but also living in the real world. Because in my world, once the budget's fixed, rarely do you get an extension until you delivered something successfully. So that's just kind of an overview of how you might review the book or look at the book, with the idea of actually applying it in a day-to-day situation. So that was the main topic, just to show you that, okay, it's really about how to live in the real world and still be agile. And on the next slide, it's just some steps and recommendations for going agile. so I think you already have your own challenges and experiences, and these steps are probably things that you've already gone through. The only one that I want to highlight is really just this idea of actually defining success. What I find a lot is the idea of having self-organizing, self-managing teams, and Agile is very good. And on a day-to-day, I think it actually works. But the key is to make sure there is alignment between management, what management expects, and what the team itself is doing. So this idea of defining success, which is point number 4, is I think one of the most critical things that I see in Agile projects. The idea is that, if you define your definition of done, just make sure it's agreed at every level of the organization, so that when you actually go Agile and apply Agile practices, everybody agrees when something is really successful. So that's basically the overview I just wanted to give you on what the book is about, how you might have used the book, and the last slide is just some of what other people think about the book. Basically, the 20 people that I had reviewing it were coming from the Agile practices, from Scrum, Lean, as well as Kanban, and PMPs, so project management professionals as well. That was basically it for me. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them. On any topic, by the way.
Okay, let's see questions. Well, I have myself 2 questions. So in the project budget, how much do you usually allocate for the risk actions?
For the risk actions, what I normally do there is I actually hold a couple of sessions with the team where we basically, in a very visual way, try to identify what are some of the things that could happen and could occur. And then for each of the topics that we identify, we say, well, how would we actually resolve it? And based on what we're able to come up with how we would resolve it, we put either a number of effort days against it, or we put a financial budget against it. So for example, if it's something with collaboration, for example, where we might need to have 2 extra review sessions or planning sessions, then I just put budget against it or money against it for travel budget. So that's just 10,000 euros as an example. However, if it is something where we might have to do rework or extended testing. So for example, in the kinds of projects that I work in, it's always challenging to deliver something that meets the performance requirements of the users. Yeah? Normally you deliver it, and then they say it's too slow, and then you basically start investigating how to make it faster. And so basically for something like that, we can usually estimate that it will take us 1 or 2 iterations of review to actually be able to improve the performance. And so for something like that, if we have a 2-week iteration, we might put 20 days against it. Or if we have a longer one, it would be more days. And so basically putting either days or money against it, we're able to come up with a value for the risk actions. And then I use that value as what I put into the budget.
Yeah.
So that's how I come up with that number.
Yes, that sounds really good. Okay, so I think there are no other questions, Gloria, but if when the people will read the book, and I think they can send you directly the questions they might have.
Okay.
In the magazine.
I know that Simona has, for the people that went to the conference, the Mammoth conference, got copies of the books, and I think she'd be willing to either to happily sell anyone that's interested in a copy of the book, or it's available on Amazon if anyone's interested.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Actually, I'll talk with Simona and put a link over there or something to allow people to get the book.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Gloria. Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Stata presentata della ISDC.
un articol interesant despre comunitățile de practică și cum putem învăța și avea training-ul mai bune în cadrul filmelor.
Numele meu este Cristina Donea. Sper să mă auziți și din spate. Da?